Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we'll be talking about EX9 and all the new decks, the new cards that came with it, as well as the strongest cards and decks from the last meta, and see how they changed with the release of EX9. A quick thing I want to go through with you today is the different tiers, because I'm not a big fan of just saying this is A tier, B tier, C tier. I want to give it a name. So we've got S tier as top cut. If we see regional events and look at the top 16, top 32, we will most definitely see the decks that are in this tier. Speaking of the strongest decks, the ones that you will be very likely to place in top cut with. A tier below that, the A tier, is regional cope. There are a few decks in this tier that are very strong, but lack a certain thing or have big weaknesses, which make them a little bit weaker than the decks in S tier. Below that, in the middle, is B tier with local winners. Obviously, the name is already explaining everything. These decks are capable of winning local events, which are more casual and maybe stop after the 4th round or the 5th round. You can expect these decks to get lucky once in a while, but they shouldn't be actually in conversation about regional tops or regional winner. Second to last, we've got the C tier with difficult. These decks have huge weaknesses and just flaws and are just inconsistent or not strong enough when they pop off. And lastly, we've got fun decks. They're just bad. They're not good. Don't play them. So starting off with kind of 3 decks at once, because we have Growlmon X, Digidra, and Phoenixmon as an idea of Gilberts. The thing in our meta right now is we have Growlmon X antibody from EX8 and Growlmon X antibody from EX8. These two cards in combination with BT21, Growlmon and Growlmon make a solid base for these 3 decks. Notably Megidramon and Phoenix X, which is, well, Gilberts, kind of abuse this to a certain degree, because you can trigger the on-deletions oftentimes, or you want to trigger them oftentimes, especially with Phoenix X, to gain advantage, gain memory, play out another Growlmon with the Phoenix X end of attack on deletion. Yeah, anything that actually plays these new cards is highly competitive. It's really strong, it's really memory efficient, and especially the strongest decks when looking at Megidra don't actually play Megidra. Rather, they play a high amount of memory boost cards, which allow you to search for your pieces and then just combo off infinitely. Because every time you delete a stack, you can play out another Rush Growlmon and go into security. If you then Digivolve Growlmon back on top of it and Growlmon X, you can, well, go in again because you have Rush, and you can play out another Growlmon after that, as well as BT13 and Promo Growlmon. They both have Rush and can reduce their play cost to an absurd amount. Especially when paired with Gravity Crush, this can lead to an early OTK, making this deck one of the strongest decks. Growlmon OTK has been, well, in the meta for quite some time now. EX8 has been released 2 sets ago, I believe. Yeah, Growlmon is still a really good deck, has some sort of protection. Again, Royal Knights can play around it pretty easily, but it's still unaffected during most of your opponent's turns, so it's still pretty good. Also, not much has changed with Adventure. Adventure has gotten, well, the Altaris mode and Sagittarius mode, making some plays more memory efficient, as well as the double tamer tie-in bet. It has to be said that these 3 cards, especially when also paired with Growlmon and Blitzgreymon and Alta S, are kind of a different way of playing Adventure. Adventure already has a pretty strong board removal in Lilymon, in Metal Greymon from BT21, and yeah, I think the old level 5s, like Lilymon especially, is already enough, and the idea how Adventure can go in with rush checks, with alliance, triple, double checks is already pretty strong, and you don't need to go for this high end for the Alta S play. Regardless, I think the strongest build of Adventure, whatever it is still top deck, obviously. Next up, we've got Puppets, and Puppets is really strong, but in my opinion, still regional cope. It can put up a really strong board. It can put up end of attack with the inherited from Kokeshimon and Honeymon, as well as protection with every level 5 Digimon when Digivolving Kaguyamon on top of that. And whenever you end an attack with the Kokeshimon or the Honeymon, as well as protect yourself with the level 5, let it be Chaperamon or Karakumon, you will delete something else, which triggers the all turns to delete something from your opponent. This is especially strong against single stack decks as Growlmon, but a lot of decks can play around it and force out the all turns before actually committing to a larger play, so I'm giving it A tier. Next up, Machinedramon. Machinedramon is also regional cope. It has gotten a lot of support. And don't get me wrong, the new cyborgs and the new Machinramon make it really, really strong and also pretty easy to get out. With Assembly and Supreme Connection, you can get it out for 3, and a lot of people have been playing BT7 Metal Greymon to gain 2 memory if you have a tamer. This is pretty strong, and the removal options are really wide. You can de-digivolve and delete with Metal Tyrannomon. You can put in Metal Mamamon for the Royal Knights matchup because you can bottom deck something with no source. It's really flexible, and a lot of people have experimented with ratios of level 5s, and yeah, Machinera is definitely a force to be reckoned with, but it still lacks some tempo to get into Machineramon, and once your Machinera is outed and you don't draw another Machinera, you're out of the game. A tier. Next up, we've got Growlmon, and Growlmon is just a local winner. Sagittarius mode gives you the ability to digivolve for 0 when a Matt Ishida is played. With the combination with EX1 Growlmon, you can do that when attacking for actually 0 memory. You don't even need to play out the tamer with the play cost, but rather with the when attacking of the inherited EX1 Growlmon. Yeah, again, with Sagittarius mode on top, you can play kind of a toolbox Growlmon deck, which is pretty cool to remove boards or go into the secret rare BT15 Metal Growlmon. But apart from that, it doesn't lock your opponent out of anything, and it doesn't have a lot of really, really good protection, as for example Magna X. So yeah, this deck just falls flat a little bit. Omnimon Alta S. And this picture is representing version 1 and version 2 combination of the M trait. So you want to have a stack in Raising, Digivolve into Mamamon with at least 3 cards face down under it, which lets you play out a play cost 7 DM trait Digimon from the top 3 of your decks. If you play out Crestgarumon or Blitzgarumon, you can, well, Digivolve the Mamamon into the other level 6 and end of turn go into Alta S, and from there on you will always have your Alta S, or the level 6 is on board, which can always go into Alta S. This deck is pretty funny, it's really explosive, but once your kind of stack whiffs or it's outed, you're just sitting there with nothing to follow up. So yeah, this is just a local winner. Moving on, a really cool deck, Abadomon is regional cope in my opinion. Abadomon has really, really good tools for dealing with your opponent's Digimon that are already on the board. You can force them to attack with Laplace Demon. You can ace a lot of level 6s. You can also just redirect into a Raremon and use the on deletion to play something out to, well, again, Raremon can digivolve something during attack timing. And you just have a lot of defensive capabilities with the egg that can just redirect. And yeah, this is really cool. Also, after the 4th turn, on your 5th turn, you will always move out your Abadomon core, and from there on, you have offensive capabilities. Obviously, this deck falls behind when it comes to protection. It doesn't have any protection. It kind of uses the breeding with your core as protection, because you can wait until your opponent attacks with the right monster to block, and the lowest level will be deleted when you want to move out and block the one Digimon that is really important to block. Also, deleting in battle goes through a lot of protection. For example, the Miraculous Mega Knight option from Omnimon is just outed by that, because it's battle, it's not effect. It's still falling behind a little bit, because it's, well, outed by Pomomon, Pillomon, and Gotsumon. You cannot play out anything with your Digi when these floodgates are out, and especially a lot of Royal Knights players are playing Gotsumon, and yeah, you can expect to be floodgated at least once or twice regionals. It's not the best. Next up, we've got Chimeramon. I am not the biggest Chimeramon player, but from my experience, the deck is really not good. You shouldn't play it. Your payoff essentially is a lot of level 4s that, I don't know, suspend, draw a card, delete a level 4 Digimon, okay, whatever. And your payoff in Chimeramon is a deletion and a rush. And yeah, if you want to play a rush Digimon, you can just go for Gilmon, Gilberts, whatever, Megidra. You don't need to play Chimeramon for that. And especially also in the same tier is Kernomon, Wind Guardians, essentially. Wind Guardians can do a lot of funny combos, which result in, I think, 2 bottom decks. And apart from that, just suspending. So yeah, just suspending until you're reaching level 7 is just not it. Next up, we've got Heroes. And I'm not the biggest fan of Heroes, but I can see how it is fast, how it can synergize well with inherited effects, having more DP, and also plays well with Fire Rocket, especially when our Starlormon Superior Mode can do a second kind of attack. So yeah, I think this deck is really offensively good, kind of like the old days of Red Hybrid where you could just go in with a lot of checks. I think Heroes can also just go at your opponent, hope they don't have an ace, and because a Starlormon Superior Mode has like 15,000 DP, sure, but if it's aced, there's nothing it really does. And I think that's where it falls flat. Also, it has Gaiamon, which can unsuspend, yes. And then it's with the use of, what's it called? Logachmon? Yeah, but I don't see a lot of hope in this deck. It's still regional cope. There might be someone on top cut. Next up, we've got Red Hybrid, or let's say Ancient Greymon. This is local winner, as well as the, let's say, Emperor Greymon, Red Hybrid. So these are in the same idea. You want to play Red Hybrid cards, and one of them goes into Ancient, one of them goes into Emperor. I think Red Hybrid is not that good, honestly. It has a lot of tempo, but once it's out of gas, it's just sitting there with not a lot of things to do. And the idea that you want to play a lot of tamers to get them out because you have a lot of effects that cheat them out is a restriction for your deck. You need to play a lot of tamers. But once you have used all of your hybrids and the cards you drew after that are not it, you are sitting there. Again, you can be out of gas pretty quickly, and there are a lot of defensive capabilities in decks that are running around, or just Growlmon X based decks that are much stronger in consecutively attacking your opponent. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the hybrid. 3 Great Angels is A tier for me. 3 Great Angels is a really good control decks. While control decks are not the best thing right now, we just want to rush in the current meta. Well, 3 Great Angels does a pretty good example of showing how control decks can be. The biggest advantage is Dominimon giving protection to every 3 Great Angel card, and the idea that you can just protect your aces behind this protection and have like 20 overflow memory on the board, but it's not being used by your opponent because they cannot get rid of them. And every time they try to attack to like raid over them because they don't always have barrier, that's the point where your ace again remove them. So yeah, pretty cool deck. Some decks cannot out Dominimon, and they can just straight up not win against 3 Great Angels, but something like Digivolve hits this deck really hard because the protection is immediately lost, overflow can be gained, and it's just pretty rough spot for 3 Great Angels. Still a nice deck. Also, same here, Leviamon. Leviamon is kind of being slept on, in my opinion, because Biting Crush and Levi X40 in combination with Dargomon is just really strong. Biting Crush gives interaction on your opponent's turn whenever they try to play something by effect, and guess what? We have a lot of effects that play Digimon right now in the meta, and yeah, Dark Animal Engine is, I don't want to say broken, but it's pretty strong, and it's efficient, it's memory-wise pretty good. It can set up for a few turns before it goes all out and clears the entire board, so yeah. And the security is pretty hard to go through as well, because if there's a Biting Crush or 7th Lightning or something like that, yeah, that's rough. As well as Wisdom Training, Protoforms. Next up, we've got Appmon, and they got a new keyword, but it's C tier. That's difficult. It doesn't work right now. It doesn't work. Maybe Tweetmon promo is going to change something about that, but yeah, no, it just doesn't do enough. And yeah, the third deck in category fun deck. You could say Medusamon is difficult, but well, Medusa, realistically, it does like 3 or 4 checks. After it did some setup, okay, it's put up some tamers, okay. And then it goes out for a big turn, delete something with lowest DP, or before that, you can delete 4,000 low with Cyclonemon. Yeah, but after your turn, you are not protected. You can't even deal with protection on the enemy because you only have like 1 actual removal with Medusamon, or just go in with battle with War Greymon. So no, I don't think this deck is good. You could again argue for C tier, but whatever. Medusamon is not good. On the other side, we've got Galacticmon, still a pretty good contender. Although I'd say all Gallant based decks have way too good removal or just way too fast in the early game. So yeah, I think Galactic could be also argued as S tier because it has a nice tamer removal for adventure tamers, for Sakuyamon tamers, whatever. But again, it's just a little bit slow on the setup. It tries to OTK you with the option with Ragnarok Cannon, and I don't see how that's realistic in the current. Next up, one of the classics, Magna X. Magna X is also, I sleep on Magna X a lot, but being immune for your turn and the entire opponent's turn is insane. This is also not talking about Armor Rush. We'll be talking about Armor Rush in just a moment. This is pure Magnamon with cards like Island of Adventure, Genai's House to use the alternates again to give protection again without attacking into your opponent and maybe losing the Magna X. This is pure Magna X and trying to resolve the alternates as often as possible and getting your opponent in a situation where they try to swing over or through the Magnamon X, but you can ace into whatever you you want to. Like Paladin mode is pretty good against all Megiddo base decks. We've got Jasmon GX that can just OTK the turn after because it trashes 2 security. Since any stack should have a Magnamon, a Magna X, which is 2 Royal Knights. If you ace, there's a 3rd Royal Knight, and when attacking, there's a 4th Royal Knight, trashing 2 security for every 2 cards. 1 security for every 2 cards, and with 4 cards, it's 2 cards. Yeah, well, Magna X is a pretty good deck, and I think this will be in top cut if played correctly. Next up, we've got Crossheart. Not much to say about this. It needs a lot of engine to work with the E-Cross 6. Yeah, and the engine just doesn't do a lot of things. I don't know what they thought about Crossheart. I love Crossheart. I played a lot of when BT10, BT11, BT12 was around, and they massacred my boy. On the same tier, we've got Examon. Examon is relying on its ace a lot, which is not good because 5 overflow pretty much sucks. It only has inherently evade, but he can also get Slayermons inherited to gain a little bit more protection. But yeah, no, I think relying on ace is not really good, because your level 5 or level 6 can be outed before that, and they will most likely be outed before you can ace. And if you're talking about, oh, you can play the option Dragon Gene, you need both bodies for Dragon Gene on the field, and then you can DNA once. After that, you need protection, which is pretty hard to get, because you need a Slayer on field. So yeah, Examon is kind of hard. Also, again, same tier, Jasmon GX. So this is just Jasmon with Systemon, Genku, Genku X, the new cards for BT20. It's so incredibly difficult to find all the pieces. This is just not good. Do you remember BT6 or BT7 Hackmon? Searches top 5, and it only takes Hackmon in its name or Systemon. And Jasmon. It bottom decks all Genkumons, which are pretty important for the combo. So yeah, this deck sucks. Could be fun deck, but it has protection, so it makes everything unaffected with Genku X, unaffected by Digimon effects, which is pretty strong. That means you can always ace without running danger of, I don't know, being deleted by Gallantmon. So yeah, this is why it's difficult. Medusamon doesn't have that luxury of being unaffected at any point in time. Progress is something, yes, but I guess you can wait for one attack. Yeah, we will keep on going. Gammamon is also difficult. Gammamon only deletes opponent's Digimon, I feel like. That's all it does. The protection is lackluster. You need to trash 3 sources with Gammamon in its text. Okay, yeah, sure. You trade that for having all the effects of Gammamon-based cards under it. So the protection is on Kano-wise, and you need the other Kano-wise to gain the other effects, all of the one Digivolving effects. So if all your deck does is delete something on board and play out a hero, no, that's going nowhere. Same thing with Hunters. Hunters could be a local winner, I can see that, but I'll put it in difficult because it also loses to any ace, which is pretty funny. Or Magna X, because Magna is unaffected. Maybe with the new Astronauts Superior mode, that's not really the case, but again, any ace will delete this. And yeah, it was really ahead of its time in BT12. I have to give it that, but it's just not it. Like, playing out a tamer and reducing by 1 for each tamer is just not fast enough. Next up, we've got Lord Knight. Lord Knight could be seen as purple good stuff, but I wanted to differentiate Levia and Lord Knight a little bit. Obviously, in actual deck lists, you see a lot of mix, where they go Dark Animal Engine, and then as level 6, a mixture of both Lord Knight and Leviamon, because Leviamon Biting Crush is just pretty strong on the opponent's turn, and Lord Knight playing out Floodgates is just really good as a neutral game to prevent your opponent from doing stuff. And I think this is a local winner. It just falls short a little bit, because it's a really glass cannon kind of deck. It does actually 4 checks, because Lord Knight X gets Alliance, and it can unsuspend because of the Cerberus X effect, which means, yeah, you will get 4 checks, but that's it. And you try to kind of floodgate your opponent if it's possible with Psychmon and Gazimon. But guess what? One of the top decks has Growlmon. And Growlmon will always, when Digivolving, delete 4,000 or lower with the BT21, or delete 3,000 or lower with the EX3, I believe. Floodgates don't work. They even give Growlmon memory. So even if you choke them at 1, they might be able to get 1 memory with Growlmon X antibody inherited. So yeah, this is just a big problem. Floodgates don't work right now. And finally, we can switch tiers, because this is Galaxy Toolbox with red top end. The blue top end with Hexablau, Invisimon, and whatever, kind of loses to a lot of red decks because they can just be deleted. They can be deleted, Hexablau can be deleted, wow, okay. But the red kind of Dragon Link's Galaxy is really strong because it floodgates your opponent as a lingering global effect. You cannot play anything until the end of turn, or you cannot digivolve or move anything until the end of turn, which is incredibly hard to deal with. Also, you've got Medieval in this kind of deck, which you can also digivolve on top of Flaremon. You've got Garbobond, you've got Omni X. Omni X also works in the blue top end variant, but yeah. The red kind of thing is regional corp. It's pretty good. It might get top cut if you're a really good player and you know the matchups, yada yada. Same tier, we've got Virus Imperial Dramon. Virus Imperial Dramon is absolutely funny. Once you've got the BT16 Warmon, you can always combo at a certain point. You still rely on Shadramon, you still rely on Dino B and something in trash. You need actually 2 pieces in trash, or at least a level 5 to play it out with Dino B. This makes the deck a little bit worse, but I mean, we've got memory boosts, we've got a lot of them. We've got the dual colors if you want more memory boosts. So, and also Analog Youth also is run in this deck. It's pretty good. Also locks your opponent out from playing Digimon or Tamers by effect, regardless of DP. So yeah, that's pretty fun. And the last fun deck that we've got right here is Justimon. Justimon doesn't do anything. Justimon, some people will say, yeah, you've got options, you can do this. It's like a nice toolbox, it's security effects, blah, blah, blah. That's not true. It actually doesn't do anything. All people that are playing Justimon are hallucinating effects. All that they're playing is, I don't know, boring Storm to draw one. So yeah, Justimon doesn't work. Next up, we've got Excel. And funny enough, even though it has Chaosmon, it can, for the love of God, not find an entire Digivolution line plus a second level 6 and a Chaosmon. This is all the deck needs to do. It doesn't work. If you want to take advantage out of Chaosmon, just play Sakuyamon. We'll get to Sakuya in just a moment. Actually, if I mention her, obviously Sakuyamon is S tier. Sakuyamon is so broken if it comes out pretty early. It still needs pieces, but I mean, they play 4 mental training, physical training and 3 memory boosts or something like that. And with that, they might be able to find all of their combo. Also, the Rika Tamer Search everything. Yeah, which is kind of nice. Yeah, Sakuyamon, biggest strength, Chaosmon and Rune Mode. You can just lock the opponent out of something, or Chaosmon can take attack +1 with the combination of Unsuspend by Sakuya X your turn, or when attacking, whatever it is. You can do 4 checks and you've got a rush token, so yeah. Sakuyamon is even with a single stack pretty deadly and gets out a lot of bodies. Next up, we have Green Ranger. And unless you are Boris, exactly, you might not reach top card or anything close to that. Green Ranger is essentially Lord Knight in green, because it can also play out floodgates, it can reduce like crazy. Palmon BT14 is actually one of the worst cards ever created. Why do you get 2 memory when Digivolve into Palmon X above it? If you just suspend something, this just doesn't get into my mind, but yeah. And you can also reduce by the inherited because you, well, Digivolve Togemon on top of it, play out a Tiger. Yeah, okay. I played against too many Green Ranger decks, and I have to say this deck is, again, on same footing with Lord Knight, but it doesn't OTK. It just, tries to lock out the opponent. Again, Chaosmon is something, Medieval is something. Especially Lord Knight X reduces by 7 and Medieval itself by 4. So Medieval for 0. Let's fucking go. Yeah, and I can see the idea or the argument that people say, oh, if you say Boris can get a top cut with Green Ranger, why isn't it able to for everyone? Because Boris only plays Green Ranger. He knows the matchups like no one else does. If you spend so much time in Green Ranger and maybe get top cut, you could do the same thing with the Gallant or Gilmon based decks or with Adventure and find the exact best list and actually the choke points or the points where you have to interact with your opponent the most to just be one of the best players, and you don't need to run Green Ranger with that. Yeah, respect to Boris, but the deck is mid. Next up, we've got Deep Savers. Again, you could pick a lot of things that use Aegis Dramon, but I ran with Deep Savers. You could also go with Aquatic Slop, that also works, but I think this deck is just difficult. It relies, again, it kind of falls to aces because it tries to have super jamming, not be deleted in battle at all with the option card, or with actual jamming with the inherited, and they just try to get when attacking, end of attack triggers. Yeah, I don't think that's the best way of going through your games, but it has the ability to OTK, which is pretty funny and happened to me at locals, but yeah, I don't see this deck very high up. Next up, we've got Growlmon OTK, because with the new Metal Growlmon from EX9, you have another inherited security security deck +1. This is kind of where we reached a critical mass of security deck +1, because if you reach level 5, the Metal Growlmon X antibody with 0 memory on your memory gauge, you can, given that you have a tamer with your setup, you can digivolve into the secret rare War Growlmon, get another sec +1, attack, and X antibody go into Omni X, which means if you have 5 checks at that point, you can go for another attack at the end of turn, after removing all the opponent's stuff and attacking with piercing and like 20,000 DP. So yeah, if at that point all 5 checks came through and you survived, congratulations, you just OTK'd your opponent 5-0. Nice. Yeah, this is just a local winner. It's a fun deck. It's a funny deck. It's not a fun deck. It's a funny deck that can possibly get turn 3, turn 4 OTK, but it's not consistent enough, I'd say, and it loses to Growlmon X. If there is an unaffected blocker there, well, you'll get no piercing checks. Moving on, Growlmon is a hot mess, I'd say. Growlmon needs to digivolve for 5 and raising, and all it does is like either trash your opponent's card or recover one. That's crazy. Anyways, they will get OTK'd by giving your opponent 5 memory and doing essentially nothing. That gives you, because life is temporary. You don't need life to win the game. You need your opponent to have 0. And I know that trashing your opponent's security is kind of a part of that, but again, you do nothing to build up a real board that does interact with your opponent in a meaningful way. Also, there's just a lot of cope involved, and so much cope that it came down to the difficult category. I don't see Growlmon doing anything. Also, if you want to ace, because you can search all of these 3-grade angel cards with Growlmon BT18, I believe, just play 3-grade angels. It's just a better deck. Next up, another BT20 deck that uses Oryukin. So this is Chronicles or Black Base Alphamon, whatever you want to say. Oh, wait. No, this can be argued as a local winner because Black Base Alphamon, or with the right Chronicles stack, I don't know. No, that's just... Okay, Chronicles is D tier. I don't have it right here, but let's get my boy Alphamon into the local winner, B tier. Yeah, Black Alphamon can force your opponent to attack and then steal turn, which is pretty funny, or OTK because you also gain a lot of memory when you DNA. Yeah, Alphamon is not really the best deck, but Oryukin is a pretty strong card. Next up, we've got Sephagamon. Sephagamon can take advantage of, well, being unaffected, going into medieval, and then acing on your opponent's turn, going into Sephaga Ace, and, well, unsuspending oftentimes. Yeah, this deck is kind of good, and again, it can search medieval and the Sephaga Ace, which should be an upside, but the downside is Sephaga is a single stack deck, so once your stack is outed, which is possible for decks, being unaffected for 1 turn doesn't mean you're, well, safe at all. Yeah, once your stack is removed, you're just sitting there. Other decks can, I don't know, cheat out the medieval, but, well, this deck can also cheat out medieval, but it doesn't gain anything plus from that. They need to build up a new stack. And I know Promo, Growlmon make that a little bit easier, but it's still a single stack deck, and it's not as broken as Sakuya because it doesn't rely on pretty strong level 7, so I'm not the biggest fan of Sephagamon. This is B tier. Next up, Shine Growlmon is pretty easy. It's also Glass Cannon, which is really OTK based. It can do like 3 checks, 4 checks, or even go for game with the burst mode. It's a Glass Cannon, doesn't have a lot of defense. It needs to find its pieces because it's kind of single Digivolution line. You just need 1 Shine Growlmon and then Marcus to swing. It's Tamer based, so Tamer reliant. So you need to have a Tamer unless you cannot win the game at all. It's a local winner. I mean, Growlmon won my last local, so it has to have something, but I don't think in round 7 or round 9 of a regional that you will be able to pull wins with that. Next up, we've got Armor Rush. Armor Rush is made up of mostly Magnamon, but, well, also the new Armor Evolution option card, as well as the Davis from BT21, which gives the deck, well, some more tempo or some more memory efficiency, you could say. Magnamon X is just a side defensive option right here, and I think that carries the deck a lot, because you have, well, the start of your turn where you have a lot of aggression, as far as I've seen the Armor Rush decks go, and after that you could just go into Magna X and be safe for it. Yeah, I think it's just ever so slightly worse, because keeping Magna X as level 7 option, so just as a body for level 7s to go above, is a little bit stronger than rushing in with Armor Digimon. Next up, we've got Growlmon. And Growlmon has been hit quite substantially with this Stingmon ST9, because if you go into your first Growlmon stack and you swing twice, it's really important that you have some follow-up, have some cards to play after that. And without the Stingmon, it has gotten a little bit more unlikely for you to, well, find good follow-up. So per se, you are not always in the game once you have resolved your first Growlmon someone in your first 2 attacks, which is kind of a weakness right now. Also, it's a DNA deck, so you need 2 level 4 Digimon. Also a small issue about the deck. Yeah, it's just regional cope. It can still perform. It can still do things. It has access to fighter mode BT20. Pretty nice. Next up, we've got 7 Great Demon Lords. 7 Great Demon Lords is still a pretty strong deck. It's just a little bit slower than other decks in the format because it actually needs 7 different Demon Lords under the gate, and you need to play out your Agudamon by effect, which can also be floodgated, and is really telegraphed. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of 7 Great Demon Lords. I also think it could be argued to be local winner, just a little bit lower than regional cope, but yeah, it has some good matchups, so I also see it in regional cope. But we've also got Royal Knights, and Royal Knights is one of the best decks. No doubt. Omni X is pretty strong, Omegamon is strong, especially when paired with the new Cool Boy. The new option is strong, so new support really put it up to one of the best decks, and it's still a really good deck. Next up, one of the last decks, we've got Blue Hybrid. Blue Hybrid has a little bit more consistency than Red Hybrid, as it is blue based and has a lot of draw cards. There's not much else to say. It also circumvents the on-deletion effects by giving cards back to hand, and yeah, that's all really that is. It has red base, has a lot of floodgates, it has Ukomon, it's pretty fast. It's definitely a contender for regional, but it's just not that consistent or that fast as the top cut decks. Next up, we've got Omnimon DNA. I'll put that one regional cope. This is kind of a personal thing. I think the new Alta S fits, and the new Double Tamer fits kind of well into the old BT70 style of the Omnimon deck, especially with Miraculous Mega Knight the option. You can DNA on your opponent's turn and then use the Alta S or the Omnimon to go into your opponent's Digimon or your opponent's security to do a lot of damage. Yeah, I think this deck has a lot of good matchups, and the Alta S really enables some OTKs that are just degenerate. Being unaffected by everything and end of attack playing out 2 level 6s is crazy. Unfortunately, it's a DNA deck at level 6. You need a Tamer, you need especially the end of a turn attack Tamer, and yeah, other decks are just much less reliant on Tamer or option or setup and are just generally faster than level 6, level 7 DNA deck. Yeah, moving on, Liberator, Dinomon, that's just C tier. Tyrannomon, Dinomon is just, well, Dinomon as itself is pretty good, especially when used in the red kind of Galaxy toolbox, but as its own deck, it has yet to get the needed support. So no, that's just C tier. Closing off our S tier is Purple Hybrid. Purple Hybrid is still insanely strong. It has even gotten support with Aristotemon's Superior Mode, gaining another attack. Yeah, it's still insanely strong. People just play Ancient Guardian Deity to grab anything back from trash, so you don't need the Mad Ishida for 4. It was kind of broken to grab back Jack Raid, but grabbing back the Duskmon for your Valgrimmon combo is still strong enough. It's still S tier. It's still one of the best decks and has a really good Royal Knights match. This is just a fun entry, Mirage Gaugamon. Mirage Gaugamon cannot be played as an Nutgate type deck. Mirage Gaugamon should be played as an OTK style deck right now. You can still use the Fish engine to get into level 5 pretty fast and pretty memory efficiently, but yeah, it's kind of difficult to justify a deck that tries to attack 5 times. All fours could be put higher or on the same tier, I don't know, but attacking 6 times in one turn requires some setup, and other decks again make that much easier on much lower levels with Growlmon X and Gilmon, and yeah, this is not a deck of the current format, of the current time. Pyramidimon also tries to OTK with some janky cards, with Fragment, with Digiburst, Gorgmon, BT4. Yeah, we have to see how the level 7 is going to be, but fine. Judging from now, this is not a really good deck. And this concludes our tier list. Let me know down below in the comments what you think about all of the decks. Again, there's a lot of personal touch from my side, so let me know what you think about all of these decks. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.